Oh, yes.
Nice.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Andy is not his tip-top self today.
You might notice my eyes I've got allergies, so I'm very rubbing and a bit sneezy and a bit exhausted and lying in bed a lot. So that's me for the moment.
Yeah.
And we got a hot topic, so I can't just turn off either.
Yeah. Judging Judgment.
Judging Judgment. So we got today Judging Judgment on A Wonderful
Full chaos. So I'm thinking I want to support you and I'll be a little bit more active.
Nice.
Judging Judgment, Andy.
Yes.
Like, what a brilliant topic. Like,
yeah.
Not only am I judging something, but I'm judging myself on top of it. Like extra hammer on the head.
Yeah, I get it a lot, actually. I've did, and you read the book, so you know a chapter is dedicated when I'm in Boston to somebody who says, how do I not judge my judgment? Like how do I not judge? No, he didn't say how do I not judge. He said, how do I not judge? And I always laugh. I mean, when someone says, I don't want to judge, I'm like, oh my God, man or woman, you're screwed. That's like my first thought, like immediately. You're screwed. It's like, because I don't see that you cannot judge. I think you can be aware of your judgment. So in some weird way, like when someone, and maybe it's the context, maybe they have a different understanding when they say it. But when you say, I don't want to judge, actually, what you're actually saying is, I want to be so conscious. What you could be saying, let's put it that way. I want to be so conscious of my judgment that it no longer defines what I'm doing. Like that would make more sense. Because we're going to judge.
Regardless.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, we go out on the street and the whole idea is like, I don't want to put myself in a dangerous situation. So I'm looking around. If I feel there's any danger there, that's a judgment, right? Especially if we look in the US right now. Like this was a big topic and I thought it was kind of cool that it dovetailed with today. Because when you look at all the rioting in America and everyone sort of throwing out the word racism, and you see individuals unable to deal with that word, I'm not a racist, that in a weird way, we polarize even more because if we judge the word racist, all of a sudden, we don't have an opportunity to dialogue around what it means. How is it like manifesting in the world? How does it manifest in you or I? So my preference would be everyone says I'm a racist. Everyone, period. Like no, and then we get to say, in what ways are we racist?
Slow down. So what you're saying is everyone has the racist capacity in them.
Well, I mean, this is where it gets all, the labeling and the wording. Everyone is going to have a different label and word, and everyone's going to have a lot of emotional loading to that. Like, oh my God, you're this or you're that. And the whole thing is that if we don't allow ourselves to accept that we are not even aware of things we're judging and labeling, including race, then to some degree, we're so blind to ourselves. And not only that, then it gets back to this sort of identity thing we always discuss. Then I'm trying to reaffirm what I'm not. Identity isn't only what I am, it's the idea that I'm not this other thing.
Yeah.
So I would rather people approach life and judgment in a far more open manner and saying, okay, I know there is judgment by the mere fact I exist and the fact that I've made it this long, not killed myself, because I didn't have judgment. I would have died by now for sure, right? Judging whether I should do one thing or another thing obviously has gotten me this far.
Yeah.
And then the question is what can I learn about myself and how willing am I to sort of see things I may not even know are there? Because we have been socialized in ways we're not even aware of. We think we are, we think we know. And that's the danger in life, is that once we get confined to an idea of what we do know, I'm not this, then there's no discovery of what I am also. Right. And so I'd rather not the loaded words. I'd rather racist be just a word that one has like any other word where we have an opportunity to reflect on where is that true for us, right? Where is that true for us?
Where is that true for us?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's so subtle. Like, the beauty is that when people start to what would you say, when they start to heighten their consciousness around it, then there was a really beautiful. We're going to have a guest on the show, David Boone, and David Boone, he was well known because he was on a CNN special called "From Homeless to Harvard." So he was African American in Cleveland, and he basically made it into Harvard.
Wow.
And I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and we talked to him about a week ago, I believe, and we discussed him coming on, and we were going to discuss white privilege on that show. And when it was interesting, because as we were talking about it, he used terminology that really blew my mind. Like, I was like, wow, this is fascinating. He's like, Andy, like, because we were talking about an instance where, there's so many of these in the U.S., of course, but some teacher at a university jumped over a fence of his own home, and then the police were called. And the police came, and then basically the police officer eventually got fired for this situation. I don't think this person was killed per se, but it was just an ugly incident. And the white community got really up in arms against this because this officer got fired. They said, "Hey, he's just doing his job," right? And this was during the Obama era. I never really realized how much hatred there was towards Obama until he was gone. Like, it just seemed like a good president as far as I was concerned, but there was a lot of hatred towards him in the U.S. So when I talked to him, he's like, yeah, people that are really nice people, they have the luxury of not needing to worry about it. That's how he phrased it. The luxury of not needing to worry about it. And I was like, wow, he's got a real point here. Like, they don't need to worry about it because it's not their issue. If it were their issue, obviously they'd start to worry about it, but it isn't, right? So now, of course, it is their issue because cities are burning down. So now it becomes their issue. And when all these protesters go on and so on, and they show that, hey, we're not allowed to kneel down when the national anthem is done. We're not allowed to wear a shirt that says Black Lives Matter. Like, everything that we're not allowed to do, all of a sudden now becomes, okay, so now we're fed up with everything, and now we're going to show you, we got teeth as well. So it's really quite fascinating when you look at it. And I see now, confronting back to the individuals as a society, like, if we all just said without judgment, no, hey, where am I racist? And didn't have any judgment towards the word racism, then all you do is discover all the subtle little things you're doing, but you're not aware of.
It's a great question to meditate on, actually, right?
Exactly. And I think in some ways you'll never really know because you're so blind to it because it's so taken for granted. And it's not only racism. Racism is one, like, misogynistic, right? Like, the whole thing of, like, where, when you look at a kind of a show and there's speakers, in the past, it's only been white males. Pretty much all the speakers are white males. And now there's like, wow, actually, we need to be more conscious that we need to bring diversity into, and it's kind of interesting because I'll talk to Ronnie about this as well. And it'll be like, well, diversity is great because people are invited in, but do they actually get to participate when they're there? So Ronnie keeps, like, she says over and over to me, it's like having a dance and they're invited, but who's going to dance with them, sort of thing. So, and I believe, and I see it, and the topic obviously morphed, as you can see, but the topic for me of judging judgment means that we're blind to the fact that judgment happens in ourselves. And if we're blind to that, we're stuck all the time, or we're actually ashamed of the thoughts that come up, or we're angry, so we're not actually learning that the things that are coming up in us are there to, like, help us see that maybe there's something to learn or understand. Yeah.
I like to, like, in my experience, how I live judgment is I'll let it play out.
Okay.
Like, fully.
And then, so what do you mean? Like, help me. So when you say, is it a judgment you have towards a thing, or what judgment?
Or let's say I'm judging myself for something, and I'm even judging myself for judging myself. Like, I'll let it just play out.
Okay. And how does that look like in your life when you say you let it play out?
I probably have
Mm.
2 or 3, 4 days max where I feel really heavy in my body. So I'll let it impact me physically. So I feel the consequence.
Okay.
And at some point, because I've gone in there and I've really felt it fully, I'll step out of it. And I mean, this is beautiful. You say a lot. You cannot solve the problem from the paradigm where it's being created, right?
Yeah, the context in which it's created.
Yeah. So stepping out of that and just getting a helicopter view and knowing that there's nothing you can do. Actually, there's nothing to do.
No.
Just allow it to be there and breathe.
With the judgment, when you say this judgment, I'm curious, is it self-judgment? Like, is it judgment towards yourself, or do you just say judgment towards another person?
Normally, it's judging myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Like a recent example was me judging my lust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, very clearly. And as soon as I allowed that to exist, there was no flight and no fight, but this sweet spot of discovery.
Yeah. Yeah. If you meditate into those, it can go really deep. Really deep. Yeah.
But I must say that it works for me. I don't know.
No, I understand.
I wouldn't recommend people just go fully into turmoil.
I mean, I think what I've often seen, and that's what we'll do on the show a lot, is we'll say this masculine trait of sort of going into the head and rationalizing the thing. We associate it with the masculine sort of trait,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
And the more feminine wallowing in it, right? And then there's that mix of where can I be present with it without it now like consuming me, right?
Consuming being key.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful space to be in, because that's where kind of learning comes in, as far as I've experienced being in a space where I'm gentle with myself. Yeah, I think that's often what I'll say to people when they're going through their the intensity. Just like
I judge gentleness.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said it, and I felt the subtlety of how that word lands, like how gentleness lands in my body.
Yeah, so let's go with that one for a moment,
yeah,
okay?
Since it's
so I judge the judgment. So I make a judgment, right? Whatever I call it, gentle. What happens in you, and when you get triggered by that word, or what's that process in you?
Just say Bumbles, be gentle to yourself.
Bumbles, be gentle to yourself.
I can't get into it now.
Yeah. What happens to you though?
But right now I'm laughing at it.
Yeah, you must.
So there's something like
dismissive of it, or
yeah.
And what do you associate it with? Like, it has to go somewhere in you. Like, what is it? What's gentle? What is it connected to in you?
Oh, wow. You're going to put me on the spot, and then I'm just going to be unfiltered. The people in my life to tell me to be gentle are the same people that are kind of putting themselves on a fluffy cushion in life, and they're not really moving.
Ah, wow.
So in a way, I'm being judged for being like a force, let's say. And
hold on, slow down. I'm just totally processing what you just did.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I discovered something as you talk now. So in a way, you're not judging the judgment. You're feeling that in their suggestion, it's not coming from a place of compassion. It's coming from a place of judgment, as if you should be doing it another way.
Yeah.
And you feel that.
I feel that.
Wow.
The same where I had a really good friend on, when was it? 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, come on, man, give me a hug. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm doing a wonderful chaos. And I'm sitting next to Andy. He's like,
he's already sick enough with his.
He's like, you always have to go against the grain, he says to me. And I'm like, bro, like I'm choosing for a wonderful chaos. So if that means not hugging people, not having sex, then so be it.
Yeah.
And he gave me a lecture and even told me, why don't you guys, and I received it, he had some pretty good points.
Good points, of course.
So he said, why don't you take 2 chairs, sit a distance? It's not like you're hugging the guy anyway.
True.
And take another camera, and like he had all these.
How much, just out of curiosity, let's say for a moment the wonderful chaos didn't exist. How would your life be different? Like, what would you be doing differently in your life that you're not?
I probably wouldn't be too focused on the corona, because
I just
have a extremely good immune system.
Okay, because you'd say, listen, I'll take the risk knowing that that's okay. Meaning, I mean, when we say take the risk, like, I mean, I think, are you going to be hugging people on the street casually?
No.
I didn't think you would.
I'd be more conscious with, but right now I'm not hugging anyone, right?
Okay.
So it has to be people that are still like to
Mm.
some degree conscious.
Yeah,
with
you don't
who-
want people that are just not considering it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, because I mean, in a way, I would say I'm not, I'm lucky in that I have Ronnie, so I have someone to have a connection and affection to.
Can I hug you after the show?
Yeah, of course.
Good.
As long as you're okay with me sneezing on you. You know what the worst part of now is that as I'm on the street and there's so much pollen in the air.
And you sneeze?
And you sneeze. It's just like it's a fire alarm. Like everyone scurries away. You're like, it's the.
And then you have to say it's not Corona.
So judgment.
Let's take it as it is. Judging the judgment. Like, how's it feel in your body? Like judging the judgment.
It's what I would call it is a constant meditation. That's how I would call it if I phrase it. It's like, oh, that's happening. Oh, that's happening. Oh, that's happening.
So what happens in me when I say I'm judging the judgment? It means I'm taking my thoughts so seriously. And now I'm adding another story on top of that. So I'm enhancing the story and I'm getting lost in a concept, on an idea.
Well, I mean, if you're judging, right, you are taking the thought seriously. So let's agree on that.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to say that is true. So the whole thing is, you've touched on something really beautiful, is that if you say, I don't trust or take my thoughts for granted as if they just are true, then in a way you've expanded your capacity to see things more openly, exponentially.
Say that again.
So as soon as the moment you say thoughts are just thoughts, I'm not going to attach to them.
Oh, okay. So I'm not taking my thoughts seriously.
I'm not taking my thoughts seriously.
In fact, I don't trust my thoughts.
Yeah, but you don't load trust with a negative. You just say, just don't trust my thoughts. As soon as you allow that space in your system, all of a sudden a lot of wonder comes up, because you're kind of looking at the world, and the world inside and outside start to become one a bit. And then you start to feel things come up, and you're not attaching to them and then reacting to the things you've attached to. You're basically just kind of laughing half the time, like that just happened, like that just happened.
I'm smiling because I had a little bit of a helicopter view. Like, the reason we're sitting here with the wonderful chaos is we would have these conversations without the camera.
Yeah, always.
So I'm like, oh shit, this reminds me of when we used to sit downstairs.
Yeah, we've had a lot of those conversations, haven't we? But I imagine for you, as we discuss it, it becomes more ingrained in your experience. So it's not a concept as much now. Would that be safe to say, or no? Yeah. Because I can say something and we could say, yeah, but that's so out of sync with where you are and how you're living that it's just a concept. Who cares? On one level, right? Like, I'm always in the realm of, if we can't bring it to an experience, then we have to trust the other person. And if we have to trust them, we lose agency over ourselves again.
Well, here's the thing. If you trust the other person, you also need to take into account the context under which they're living that specific experience, right?
Yep, exactly. And they hopefully they're talking from their experience and not from something they learned from somebody else that they're now trying to teach without it being embodied. Right?
Are you guys still with us?
I got it. We'll see. We're going to drop like flies.
I noticed.
It's so normal for me. I just think it's the normal thing to say or think, but I can imagine for others it could be hard to sit with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so let's go back to the judgment. So there was the coaching session I had when I was in Boston, and we discussed this on another show, but let's go back to it. Then I described the radical self-love practice, where one says the thing that they're most frightened of, they're most scared to say, and then allows themselves to stem after that to say, and it's effing great. And it's effing great. I'm really scared.
And it's amazing.
And it's beautiful. It's amazing. So I'm scared to be alone the rest of my life, and it's great, and it's okay. we kind of build from the it's okay to the great. Now, so I did that as a practice. And what happened was that, and I told you this before, I never shared that practice before I did a last letter session, because I always sort of just said, hey, we're here to write a letter to a loved one. I didn't write any talk about the practice, but
No, you tried it with me in the
yeah.
beginning when we met, right?
Yeah. But in the tour, I just kind of let it unfold with more of the emotion and not the kind of story, this part of the story. But each one was different, and this one I happened to talk about it. So the group was already primed in that way. And then this one guy started to write the letter to his mom. And he started to write the letter. It was like, dear mom. And then, you're overbearing. You don't give me any space. You're frustrated. So he started like he listed like 20 items, like really one after the other. And he ended each one with, and it's beautiful. And I love you for it. And it's incredible. And he started to like feel the release of seeing that there was a judgment towards this as being negative, and he actually allowed it just to be free in his head by just embracing it as it was. It just is. So in that way, he just kind of, I would say, he what would be a word where it just dissolved in his system, because he no longer was holding resistance towards that idea or the thought. And then another guy in the group started judging him, which was quite beautiful. And this is where it got fun, because he now judged the other guy, and he now says to him, hey, I'm judging you, right? And then he says, Andy, how do I not judge? So he started asking, I judge you for crying. I judge myself for not writing an emotional letter. Like, he started to judge like everything. I judge you for being hysterical. Like it was like he was really owning it, and everyone was laughing because he was making it, although it was personal to him, he was making it impersonal by showing himself.
So he's showing his humanity.
Yeah, he was totally showing himself. And then I'm sitting there and laughing. And this gets back to the start of this talk, where I was laughing like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You're going to judge. What I can help you at least be conscious of is that if you're aware of that judgment, you now have a chance to do a reflection, a deeper understanding, and possibly, some rewiring of what's going on in there. And that's the beauty that I see, or the potential I see for people. It's like, we have a chance to say that we're racists, just to allow ourselves not to judge the idea that a racist is good nor bad. It just is.
Racism exists within me.
Racism, that's a better way of saying it, because that would then, racist implies a label, and we know a label is actually, but sometimes I like a label because then it forces people to really surrender. But there's racism within me.
Have you ever experienced racism against you? Has someone ever been racist?
I mean, I lived in Japan, and there was a lot of like that, but a lot of people would call it positive racism. So I can't say, there was like anything, and on one level, being white American, like, I've always got a kind of better deal because of it. And unlike others who may have, like, from the moment it started happening, I was always embracing it. Like, I never pretended like I was getting something that others wouldn't be getting. Like, that was always very much in my system. Like, I mean, I got a job when I was in Vienna. Can you imagine going into a job with no qualification for a marketing director job with a company that's going public, and they give you the job to this kind of 24-year-old kid who was a hippie in India a week earlier? I mean, that's the reality. And I always said then and now, like, there's no way I would have gotten that job if I was a minority. I just Austrians aren't that open a society. And they obviously, not only that, they were projecting into me things, right? American, he can talk well. So I got the benefit of the idea of being whatever they thought an American was. So yeah, I mean, I've been really benefiting from that all my life, and very aware of it, not pretending like it wasn't that way. No. So, I mean, that's where the judgment, right? It's a two-way street. So you can judge the judgment we have towards other things or other people, but we can also judge like the things that others are judging in us. So the funny thing, early right when we began, we're like, how do we deal with people that are judging? How comfortable are you with not judging people that are judging you?
Oh, for example, my friend, I just saw that he came from love. Like, it was so important for him. So I just like, fuck, Neil, you love me. That's what I'm hearing from you. He's like, I miss you, man. I want to hug you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's where it goes, right?
Yeah.
Because when you go behind what the need or the want is, it always goes back to connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you see everyone judging this police officer who actually killed this other guy?
Oh, I mean, everyone has to vilify him because if you come to anything of any part of a defense of him in any way, all of a sudden you'll be attacked. So I assume the guy, I mean, obviously he used the worst judgment imaginable. And I would assume if that was a white person, that wouldn't have happened. I really do. I don't believe that would have happened to a white person.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So in some ways, and now we'd say he is one piece in this puzzle of all of this sort of racist activity in the U.S. that's so like permeates everything.
He's a piece of the system.
He's a piece of the system.
Wow.
So you can actually attack him, which very well he actually has to be held accountable for his action. Period.
Yeah.
But the whole system is embedded with this. The fact that 3 guys are there watching it and like just allowing it to happen, like how you have to think to yourself, it was like, remember in the Nazi times when, there were the SS officers that were working there, like at some point it became so normal to kill Jews that they were just there thinking that this is how things go. Like they didn't think of it as abnormal. So like a behavior, when it's normalized in a society, people can do really screwed stuff and they're not even aware that they're doing it because the system is sort of,
it's a new norm.
It's a new norm.
Just like we're having a new corona norm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the weirdest thing in societies is that we create normalcy within a society to the point where we don't even know that normal maybe has ethical issues that are at fault or social issues that aren't being considered. And then we try to counter it with sort of courses like diversity courses and all of this and inclusion. But in some ways, it's almost like we're kind of scratching the surface of what really is underneath the belly, which is a system which is inherently favoring some and not others. And I see it all. I've seen it all my life, actually. And so, on one level, when I look at also what's going on in the U.S. right now, I gotta say, I'm not sitting here necessarily thinking, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could happen. I'm not.
Because there's worse.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, look at if a system does not account for a stress that is going unaddressed, if the president of the U.S. tells people you're kneeling to protest something is un-American, like how do you think it feel? How does it feel to be in that, like to be oppressed and then to be judged for you're trying to make any sort of like call to action out, like even awareness of it makes you more oppressed. You get attacked for saying I'm being attacked. Like what happens to that in time? It's like it's going to combust. Like that's how we work as a being, is that we will allow some degree of pressure to build, but in time it's fight or flight. So we might do the flight for a while, but all of a sudden it's going to flip to the fight. And hopefully it doesn't need to go long. There doesn't need to be too much damage or loss of life. But unfortunately, if a system doesn't take it seriously, this is the consequence. And I don't like it, don't want it, but it is what it is. And I don't see any way that it could be otherwise given what has happened over the last years, And whether people want to see it or not, the polarization of America, the creating of this very, very dissension in everything political, the CNN speak and then the Fox News speak, they're so at odds that they're creating like a echo chambers for either of these people that are just waiting for a spark to like create something, just explosion. And this is obviously what happens. I've seen it, when I visited the US years ago and Fox was just starting out on the news, I could see this sort of building up a new social norm for a group that didn't exist before. And that has evolved, over the years. It's really wild. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what people may have been expecting for today, but we're bringing in contemporary topics, which we won't necessarily do. But I think it's important this time around.
It's happening right now in the world, right?
Yeah, it is. And then going back to where I see a great possibility here is the opportunity to say, you used a good phrasing because I said earlier, I want everyone to say I'm a racist, right?
And I said, "There's racism exists within me."
Yeah, and that was an important distinction you made, which I'm happy you did, because in actuality, if I label myself a racist, then that makes it personal, and now I have to like fulfill an identity. And you know me, I want to get rid of identity. Identity is what gets us stuck. But in your phrasing of it, it allows me to say, I see racism inside of me, or where is racism inside of me? Let's put it there. And then the exploration begins. You know, like I can even see like there'll be racism inside of me because if I'm going to like hire people for a position, and let's say from all the people I'm hiring, there's black people in the group that are speaking with like the colloquial language that they would use in their own community, it would be hard for me to feel comfortable to hire, thinking that other people might not be capable of feeling comfortable in them speaking colloquially in that position. Yeah. I mean, I've never been in the situation, to be honest with you, but let's just say for just to like own, that would be an area I'd have to say, yeah, I would be considerate. I would be anxious. But by the same token, if there was a white person speaking the same way, I would also be the same true for them. But the problem is that if you think about it, that the fact that the society has very much put groups of people together, it means that there's an immense disadvantage from the start. Because we now have a society which basically uses this way of speaking and engaging. It's considered normal, and it is normal. And now we say the people with the power judge what is or isn't acceptable. And that's when that's systemic racism. So, and that's the crazy that we have. But now imagine if you're there and like me, I'm sharing this openly because like let anyone project onto me. I'm okay with that because it's part of life is like, let's be open and try to explore. Now imagine the risk I have to take to allow myself to explore that on this video. Because now I can have anyone share the video and do whatever and then make vilify me because it suits whatever agenda they have. Now, the problem is that now we have a society that no one wants to explore, so they have to defend the idea that they're not a racist or don't have a racist tendency of some sort, and then they never get to discover anything because they're always defending. And you know what happens when you're defending? You totally shut down and you don't have any opportunity to really learn and grow. So you have to be able to give enough spaciousness to yourself so that you can begin to reflect on where it's true for you. And
Beautiful.
It's really it's a complex thing because it goes back to identity. And you know me, whenever we talk about things that people identify themselves to be or not to be, then they'll get very defensive. Right? Religion, of course, is one of those hot topics that you start touching on someone's religion and you'll get a big, strong backlash.
Can take your life.
Yeah, for sure. So that's that was pretty heavy duty, wonderful chaos today, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we still have a good half hour.
We do. We have Magda. Magda, we have to thank you for coming on. We're just going to bring her on. Every time she comes on, she's been with us every day. She gives us some loving support, as she always does. It's always beautiful to see you here. It's kind of feels like somehow when I'm doing a show, I got to say, oh yeah, Magda, we have Magda going to, be there joining us on the show. So thank you for joining us, Magda. It's really great to have you. By the way, I'm going to check my phone, right? Because if people are watching, they may not know that if they watch us on A Wonderful Chaos, it's different than if they watch us on our on the Facebook world. So if you're watching us on A Wonderful Chaos, then that's great. Stay there. And if you make notes, we'll see you. But if you're watching on my private channel, then I won't be able to see your comments till afterwards. So I'm just going to go and have a quick look and see if anyone has commented anything. I'm a bit with the allergies. Everything is a bit blurry, so we'll see. One comment, and we'll see. Oh, there I am. Oh, we just see the people that are watching. Johan Istan has also been. This is true. I don't know when it was true, but he wrote at some point, "This is true." Thank you, Johan.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, I've followed a little bit of his activities, losing weight and stuff on the internet. That's nice.
Cooking every day.
Yeah.
He has a beautiful humor.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I'd like to stick with the topic and stretch it a bit more.
Topic?
The judging judgment.
Yeah, I was trying to feel into talking more from the experience.
Mm.
Where is it in my life that I see something in me, then I don't want it to be there?
Yeah. You take, it's interesting because you take judgment as self-judgment from how I hear you.
Oh, no, the judging, that when I see judging judgment, like I'm judging the thing that is being judged.
Okay, good. So like, let's take your ex-girlfriend.
We didn't take judgment, right? We said
No, we said judging judgment. Let's take your ex-girlfriend. It's just so fun being me sometimes. Just such a jerk.
Wonderful woman.
Yeah. So, but I mean, at some point, you weren't able to say "wonderful woman."
Yeah.
And then you would have judged her, and then you would have judged the idea that you were judging her, right? I'm assuming that's.
I wouldn't have judged myself for judging her.
No, you wouldn't have.
No.
Yo, because she would just say she is that way before you were seeing your own judgment there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because in some ways, like, I mean, we can go in detail without detail, right? Like, Bambos went out with a woman that was a bit younger than he was.
A bit.
Quite a bit. And the first day, I think you already know what I'm going to say.
I'm gonna.
I won't even say it. Just give the punchline.
And like whatever problems I had with her, he would say, "And she's 23."
No, she was 21. She was 21 when it started.
22.
Oh, 22.
We were together for a year and a half.
Okay. So all I would say is, and she's 22. It used to drive you crazy, I thought, because at some point it was like, Andy, I don't want you to say she's 22 anymore.
No, I said I got it.
But the whole thing was that, so I had an expectation, right or wrong, or a non-expectation, put it another way, of what I could expect from anyone, even if they'd done a lot of emotional work when they were 21 years old or 22. And so I was always experiencing her in light of that, without any saying like it should be otherwise. It was like, oh, that's what I would have been when I was 21, maybe less, probably. Yeah. So and I guess the idea there, and why I share it, is because in some ways I was aware that there was judgment, because there was judgment for me, for sure.
There was what?
Judgment. I had judgment in the situation for sure. But I was, so the judgment was someone that's younger than you are, someone that may not be able to deal with your complexity, because you can be complex. Somebody that probably has their own sexual exploration that they've got to go through, that they haven't maybe been with so many men, and you aren't the one to say, hey, let's go and have a 3 or 4-some together, you know? So those are the kind of stories that I was telling myself. And so that was my judgment, right? And then I made that judgment apparent to you, because I also didn't make it personal as judging you. I was like, these are my prejudices or what I think. So, and that way,
I never saw it as judgment, though.
I know, because it wasn't.
It was like facts.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where that's where the beauty, I think, arises, is that if you see yourself and then you say, okay, this is what I'm judging, then basically if you heighten your consciousness and start to allow that to like be brought forward without any loading to it, like good nor bad, then all of a sudden you get this opportunity for dialogue and discovery. And I think that's why you've liked me for as long as you have, because you get sick of people really quickly. You do.
I do.
I mean, like, if anything, like,
but it's more that with you kind of live a life where you're fully congruent. I mean, you'll fall on your face, let's say, with fasting, let's say, or like with disciplining some part of your life.
Yeah.
But in general, the way you live your life, I feel respect for that.
Thank you.
So,
but keep, and I want to add to it, if you can finish.
Yeah, go on.
And the reason I believe that is because instances like you in this situation, I don't tell you what to do.
No.
I don't say, like, I basically allow you to live and then share the things I see coming up in me without having to make that your problem per se.
Yeah, but you do that in all your relationships, including the one with your wife.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because I also, if I'm not coaching someone, because if I'm coaching someone, then I might exclude everything that's relevant to me because it's only about them. But if I'm in relationship and I have a kind of a like a kind of a dog in the fight, as it were, then I will share more of like these are the things I'm saying. But I think it's a nuance that not a lot of people have. Like, because it goes back to when we always make fun of when we hear people say things like, "Let me tell you my truth."
I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the idea, the subtle nuance, which I think is so important, is goes back to what you said earlier when you said, Andy, do we take our thoughts seriously? Because as soon as you take the thoughts seriously, that means everything that precedes that is, and I know.
Mm. Mm. I think that's why we also, when we invite people to come on the show,
Yeah.
one of the things that we look at is not to invite people who come with an idea.
Yeah. Yeah. No strong beliefs. Like if you can reflect with us together in a dialogue and see where it's true for you and what your experience has been, that's always where our sweet spot is.
It hasn't always worked out like that.
No,
but
it hasn't, but we tried.
yeah.
I mean, we had Niels. Is it Niels? Yeah, Niels
Niels.
Alzenga. Alzenga?
Yeah.
Yeah. Niels and I were chatting for about like 5 exchanging emails. And he was like, "Can we do a men's group?" I'm like, "I'm not interested in men's groups." He's like, "I want to know where you have had an experience in your life where we can talk about it, and I want to understand you and how you've developed." And then he gave me back something else that was like something a little bit less men's group specific, but still to that general topic. And I was like, still not there. And he was cool. He stayed with me in the relationship. And then he's like, how about how about the fact that I didn't have what I felt to be a good male role model.
Mm.
And that I see that in men without male role models don't have an easy time of it. And I'm like, I just vibrated like, oh yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Because all 3 of us can discuss how did we create a life without having the strong male role model, right?
Yeah.
But
great.
Yeah, but I mean, that was the beauty that arose because Niels held space for it. Niels could have said, like when I said, Niels, the subject isn't interesting because it's not hitting me right. He could have judged me for having said that, and if he did, it would have changed our dynamic completely. But he didn't. He just let it unfold so that we, and I was impersonal. I said, it's not that the topic, it just doesn't hit me, and I don't want to talk about a training that one you might be giving because that's not the idea of this time together. Yeah.
Oh, then I see very clearly when someone did want to join our show.
Yeah.
But they came with a content which was, I would say I judged it as being heady.
Yeah. Yeah.
and obviously when I put the guy in that corner, it wasn't received very well, of course.
Yeah.
Like he got in defensive.
But you were also judging him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clearly.
So in that way, they were feeling that in how you were engaging them, and they were triggered by it as well. They should have been in that sense, right? Yeah.
So I'm still practicing. I mean, I'm saying it out loud. I'm still practicing how to navigate that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I see part of the navigating of it also comes just in the embrace of it. Just in like, guys, I have when like I'll say, you'll see me like when people talk a lot of information. Although we do this and there's information here, I'll often say I'll be at a meeting and I'll ask Andy, what do you think? And I'll just say I turned off a half an hour ago when we started talking about stuff that really didn't connect to anything I saw relevant. And then someone might say, well, what did you not see relevant? I can answer that question. Like I fully engage in what's present for me, but I don't get lost in like other people's needs,
attacking them for
no. Yeah, and that's the difference. Like it's almost like I always say, you can be you and I can be me. Like I don't need you to be me and I don't need you to tell me what I should be. And if that doesn't work, obviously we then just shouldn't be working together or interacting. And I generally see it works. I mean, I think in some ways, if someone needs something, you don't have to give it to them. They might just need the time to go through it. And why should you have to self-sacrifice during that time? Why can't you just give the space for them to do it? And that goes back again to the judgment portion of what we're talking about. Is that if I don't judge that, right? Because I could say that's, I had some interesting people say to this single point, that's not authentic, right? Because you're not showing up as your true self. If 2 people, or if it's a group of people, and then you've locked out or whatever you have just to let it unfold and haven't named that, then you're not being truly authentic. I've had people, give me that.
So they judge you for not being honest.
Yeah, exactly. So
And can you see where that's true?
Yeah, of course. And it may or may not be true, but there's the assumption that it is true without investigating what the context was where the things were happening. Yeah, and sometimes it's just like, I can see this person needs to have this said. And the fact they need to have it said, if I say to him, I don't think this is relevant for me because I'm not thinking this, I'm not thinking that, it doesn't, where does that lead us? No, he just or she just needs to say whatever they need to say, and that's their right.
And then it's your right to switch off.
Yeah, it's my right to switch off. Like, I'll see you switch off sometimes when we have someone on that, like the opera one. I was like, oh my God, not that you were off, you were there, but I'm talking about going to see 3 operas of something. I'm like, oh my God, where are we gonna? This must be killing Bambus next to me right now.
You know me so well.
But I mean, it is where I am, and I don't not allow myself the chance to be present with what's fun and interesting for me with him.
Yeah, and I don't want to deny myself sitting there like a vegetable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's cool because if either of us were to judge the other, then clearly us being together would just be frustrating for both of us, because then I think, oh, he's sitting there just judging me for not doing the thing, and vice versa, which I've never felt. Same is true for Ronnie and I, right? Like, yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, judging judgment. By the way, we've got 15 minutes. I'd love to hear anyone having any questions or anything on the topic. It would be great. I'm going to go back to my own Facebook page to see if there are any questions that we're not seeing, because it would be also nice to field those. I've seen that happen a lot where we'll have questions come in and we won't actually respond to them because people don't know that they should be watching us on the other channel. Yeah.
Maybe it should be when we make the event, that it should also be written there.
Yeah, please watch us on Wonderful Chaos if you want to comment. That's a good point. Thank you. So, yeah, I've been...
Just take a deep breath in for a bit. Jesus, Andy. Oh, you're funny.
That was my stomach, by the way.
That was your stomach. Good. Indeed.
I was worried you might have thought it was
no.
It was a fart, but it was really my stomach just growling.
Are you hungry?
No, not at all.
Judging judgment. In fact, any time that we're judging something, we're actually saying that I don't allow this part of me to be there.
True. Which is interesting, because that's when I've looked at, for instance, Trump, right? And I've seen a lot of his behavior. There's things in there I'd say, oh, wow, I really don't appreciate that in his just outward behavior. And then I was thinking to myself, well, what can we learn from this behavior? Good, bad, or otherwise. Because as soon as you just judge it as bad person, you don't actually get the opportunity to see what is the thing that he's also doing, which is creating a third of American society that's gravitating towards it. Like, what is that? And in that wondrous question, there's a lot to be learned, right?
Okay, now you took Trump. Take Hitler then.
Yeah, I mean, Hitler would be it's always the same thing. As soon as we say, oh, bad, 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 which obviously we can't say the individual didn't do bad things. We can't say that we wish that he didn't exist, but think about like the charisma of an individual that could mobilize people to do something that, and say, now think about, if you understood that, how could you mobilize the same force to change the consciousness of the world? So start to think about it on that level. Like, so what if you said, well, so if we found the charisma and we understood where that charisma actually could be used for good, we could actually benefit from whatever it is that actually whatever it is that we learned from that way of being in the world. And then one says, no, well, we don't want that. And I can understand someone saying, I don't want that. But then also understand whatever you might have been able to have learned, you can't now, because you've automatically assumed there was nothing to learn there. And it's a hard space to hold because even as I say it, I know, everyone, there's potential for people to jump on it very quickly and say there's the polarity thinking, good or bad, right or wrong. And I'm endeavoring over and over again to say there's a middle space that people aren't allowing to see what can I learn and what needs to change fundamentally so that it's a foundational change and not just a flip from one side to another, which is what people have gotten so used to. It's a fish in water. They don't know
since
life outside of water.
childbirth, right? Like,
Since
good, Johnny, good.
Yeah. So it's good or bad.
Yeah.
It's a very clear, and we start to label it and see the world in good and bad. We don't even know that we've been conditioned to see it that way, instead of seeing it in the wonder of what's manifesting in front of us in this wondrous, beautiful way that actually we can always learn and grow from. Yeah, and that's the world I say welcome people to join, and it's risky because if you say I'm not this or that, people will then often start to judge you because they need you to be a certain way in order for them to feel comfortable that their identity is being supported, right? Yeah. We didn't have many questions, so I'm quite curious. I'd really be wondering where people are at when they watch this. Most people watch the show afterwards anyways, so I'd be curious afterwards.
You told me that she sometimes watches us, but she's also doing other things.
Yeah, that's why we got microphones, because I was told that people don't really watch. They listen to us like it's a podcast.
Great.
Yeah.
Even though it's great to look at us. I'm always smiling when I look at
I know. Yeah. Beautiful, Magda. See that? Yeah.
Yeah. Judging is separation.
That's beautiful, Magda. Yeah. I mean, I see it happen in myself. It's like everything is grounded. And then all of a sudden there's something that comes in, and then I judge it. And then I'm at that moment, I'm separate. And it's yeah.
I judge the people that watch my lives.
Yeah. Like, don't you have anything better to do with your life?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
Just realizing that.
Yeah.
But there is something behind there. Like, I don't want people to see me.
Yeah. It was funny when I when I put the book covers up for the next book.
Yeah.
And then, we have a mutual friend I won't name, but when he looked at both the covers and he said, they're both awful. It was just a funny moment. Like, when you say they're both awful, you're claiming an authority, right? Like if you say, I don't like either of them, it's different than saying they're both awful.
Yeah.
And saying I don't like either of them, then you have domain over your own feelings and opinions. To say they're both awful implies there's some authority you're coming from that then can stamp a thing as that, as if it is that way.
So are you judging him?
Yeah. That was the point. Yeah. So so when I saw that, I was like, oh, basically, I said, wow. So he doesn't see that the behavior creates potential that he may or may not be aware of. That would be like not I think what he would welcome, right? Like I don't think you want to go in the world and make people insecure, uncomfortable. I don't think anyone wants to do that. But I also see that the wording that they use has potentially that consequence. And they don't have questions about it often. So it's just the way it is. So I don't necessarily need to teach anybody, because if they don't have a question, then often it becomes the next, like now they take it personal as if you need to teach them something, and everyone gets to live their life, right? But yeah, and then
how did it feel? Like when you read it, how did it feel in your body?
I don't know if I felt it in my body as much as my head. I think it was a bit like there was the frustration. Like I think it was like, don't you see this way of acting doesn't serve anybody? That was the feeling. That's
not a feeling though. That's actually a
yeah. But it was a.
Well, I would say that you felt it there.
Yeah, that's where I would say I felt it. Yeah. Like, don't you see this way doesn't serve anybody? And not understanding the that dynamic that you also create potentially problems in your life that you'll blame other people for. That was the next step. You're not open. You're not this. You're not that. That's how it works. Where in actual, so and it was beautiful because as soon as I heightened my consciousness around it, like I said, I did a branding board. It was in line with my expectation, and I actually like both covers. So I was just genuine. I stayed true to what it was. I didn't defend. I didn't, it was like just this is how it was, And then it was just a nice exchange afterwards, just like yeah, whatever it is, it'll be great, that kind of thing. So yeah, interesting how that works, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm really enjoying how you navigate it. I see it, it's happening, and stepping out of it.
Yeah. It comes in, though, of course, because you have the judgment. You can't say that you don't. It's just, when does the judgment then define you? And it defines you at the moment when you start to react to it without consciousness that there's more going on here. Yeah. Because you could also say, saying that they're horrible is the most loving act that one could make, because in some ways they're trying to help you see that maybe you want to reconsider it all. That's their world. Like they're saying, I'm full of so much love. I'm the only one that's going to tell you the truth.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So in that way, it's there is some beauty there as well. Judging judgment. You want to lick the finger, Bambos?
Well, I want to what?
Lick the finger.
And Andy's teasing me because before we push the button live,
Bambos it was really perfectly linked to the you were licking the finger. It was disgusting for me, but it was quite beautiful at the same time.
I'm really happy you didn't push live.
That would have been the best start to any show we've ever done. Oh
man.
Okay. So that was it. Are you feeling complete?
Yeah. This was I was gonna say this was a good. Actually, I was gonna say this was a fun show. I experienced as being fun. But having said that, we've had shows where I did feel uncomfortable, but there was an embrace of the discomfort, so I knew it was perfect.
Yeah. This is a really nice one. The tomorrow, Tuesday, we have What Can We Learn from Octopuses with Lisanne Balk at 5 p.m. She's all into sensors being used for us to heighten our ability to understand and sense things that we can't understand and sense already. So she made a movie that I'm in. Maybe we'll show the movie tomorrow. Did you ever see that movie, Bambos?
No.
I'm going to show it to you.
Great.
It was playing at the museum, at the Van Gogh Museum. She had an exhibition. It's really quite great stuff. Wednesday, we have Living Without Filters with Ron Vargas. That is, if you have any, and I mean any offense to anything, then don't show up for that show. Ron, we brought him on because Ron really lives just saying whatever he's on his mind.
So, yeah. So be prepared.
We can't give you enough warning. That,
I mean, even for us, huh?
Yeah, even for us. I mean, and there's a beauty to this because he's like this soft, gentle individual who also is very loving and wants to be seen and heard. And he doesn't understand why people don't embrace him for being the way he is. So I think that's even cooler. It's not just abrasion. It's really, this is who I am. Why can't you love me for it? And on Thursday, we have a counter to this, which I think is so cool. Oops, I Sing in Public with Joe Pressimone. Joe Pressimone just loves to sing. She's expressive. She's bubbly. She's one of these people that, like, if she's in a room, she's just kind of hugging and kind of giving attention, like in a way that's just almost over the top. And I'm excited to see, how does life look on those two sides of the coin? One person who says everything that's on their mind and the world can't deal with them, and another person who is expressive and loving and trying to be just, and then isn't like, people aren't connecting. They're not singing show tunes with her. And on Friday, we have Damn, I'm a Man, which is Danny Redbard, and you can speak a little bit to him.
Yeah, Danny is, how should I put it? He, like, the way, I haven't met him. He lives in Australia, and he's one of those many out in the world who is hiding awareness, like being very free with his sexuality, but in a really pure and hiding awareness way. So, and he's really raw. Like, there's a rawness about him that I really enjoy.
Yeah, that must be why you like him.
So this is the first time we're actually or the second time we spoke once already to have the interview here.
How sweet.
So this will be the second time I actually get to spend a good hour with him and you.
Yeah. And what time is that on? Because he'll be in Australia. So I think we'll have a.
I don't remember.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the time on that because it's Australia. So that is it. Thank you for joining us again. We hope you have a good day,
guys.
Send you a lot of love, and we will look forward to seeing you on A Wonderful Chaos next time. Yep.